Ndabukyiye. Is that correct?
Yes, Gladys. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay.
Great.
I'm so inspired by what you're doing.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Founders Lounge.
Thank you. Thank you once again. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Would you mind telling us about your background?
Yes, absolutely. Hi. Come on, guys. It's a Friday evening. Listen, I know we have startups. I know there are all these things we have to take care of. But listen, life is serious. I agree. But come on. How are you guys? You're awesome. Great. My name is Geogette Ndabukyiye, and as Donald and the ever so beautiful Gladys introduced me, I am a co-founder and currently managing director of Wazi. And my background is pretty simple, nothing complicated, nothing that will make you go, ooh, no. I studied all my life here in Uganda. I went to pretty much basic schools, if you will, and then all the way to Makerere University, where I studied the law. And in my third year, I made the decision that I didn't want to practice, I didn't want to litigate. And I had done, I think we're getting great. No, yes, I had done internship. At that time, I think our year was the first year that they started to give internship across unit and marks. So, of course, I had to do it. It was compulsory. So I did my internship. And I remember I used to go to work early in the morning with my dad. And I would be there like pretty much either at the same time with the owner of the farm, the law firm, or just slightly a few minutes after she came in. And I did that for the 3 months of, I think it was 2 months. Oh, how long is internship? Is it 8 weeks or 10 weeks? I can't remember. 10 weeks, 2 months, yeah, 8 weeks, yeah. So I did that for the 2 months, and it dawned on me that this is not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And at that point, really a desire and an urge grew in my heart. I wanted to change lives, okay? And I wanted to change lives now. I didn't want to change lives. And I'm not saying that lawyers and judges and all the legal fraternity as it is, they're not changing lives. They are. But I wanted to see change that I can see today. You know what I mean? Wazi, we design and manufacture eyewear, and part of what we do is we also do eye tests and all these things. And when we test your eyes today, we test your eyes now, and they have an issue now, we get you the frames now, and you put on the glasses now, and you're able to see better now. And I just felt like, what am I doing in law school, But fortunately for my parents, and I say very fortunately for my parents, because if I was in first year and I had got this discovery, I think would have had a fight. I would never have finished law school. I would have been a dropout. I would have had an entirely different story from the one I have now. I would have been a law school dropout. But fortunately for my parents, I was in my third year. And when you're in third year, you literally have 2 semesters before you have that degree. And then I said, you know what, let me do the right thing. And the right thing is to finish what you've started. And so I finished my degree. And like I mentioned, I did not have any plans of practicing. Therefore, when my friends were going to LDC, applying, running here, running there, doing everything, I was like, fam, please. You have a blast. I'll see you. Have a blast. Go write those cases. Yeah, I'll visit you down there at LDC. Bye. So I began to look for other opportunities, other prospects, Gladys. And some of these prospects included volunteering opportunities, which I took on. I became a volunteer for a year in a place and at an organization called Veritas, where they'll teach people how to interpret the Bible. I must also say I'm a Christian, and not just an ordinary Christian, but I believe in the fact that what I do in the marketplace, it's a pulpit for me, all right? And so as I tell you my story and I tell you my Wazi story, it's going to be, in there inserted with a lot of God and a lot of scripture. because that's my basis, that's my foundation, that's my authority. My authority is the Bible, and my authority is Jesus Christ. And so for me to tell you my story without telling you Jesus in that story, I would be telling you a lie. All right, I would be a hypocrite, for lack of a better word. You would not know the entire story if Jesus wasn't part of it. So I worked for an organization called Veritas, which would teach people how to interpret the Bible. I was there for a year. And while I was there, I was made to MC the annual general meeting. And while I was emceeing the annual general meeting, one of the board advisors, because it was an NGO, so I think it was board advisor, I don't know, or board, I think, if you will. One of the members of the board saw me, and she told my boss then, the country director at that point, I think we called them national director. I can't remember the title, but it was something. I think it was country director. Told the country director at that time that I like her. I want her to work for me. I remember I was volunteering, so I shared the conversation with my boss. Then she told my boss, I want to take her for coffee. Is that okay with you? My boss said, please, by all means, go. So I told my boss said, no, by all means, go. And so I began to talk to this young lady. Well, not young. She's definitely not young, but she was a business owner, still is a business owner. And as I talked to her, she liked me, and she said, come and work for me. And then I began to work for her. This particular company, which, and the stuff that I'm doing now, God has such a high sense of humor, because the things that I'm doing now in Wazi, a lot of those things I learned at that company. I used to sell cards, business cards, stationery. So basically, I was a Mutembe, okay? And some of you are wondering, okay, you didn't want to do LDC. Now you're a Mutembe. Like, please let us understand. And for me, I knew that this was just something that was not great. It was just a temporary thing. But unknown to me, God was going to use that to prepare me for where I am now with Wazi, all right? So I was selling cards, business cards, wedding cards, all manner of stationery. And as I sold those cards and that stationery, Gladys, and I'm going to quicken up this part of the question, I began to realize I used to knock on doors. I used to go to law firms, and I would meet people I studied with in law school. And some of them would treat me well, and some of them not so well, all right? But also, I used to be treated poorly. Not everybody, but a couple of people. They used to think perhaps I don't have a degree. When you're serving somebody, yeah? When someone comes to the office and then you're like, oh, what card do you want? This is what we can do. They assume, for whatever reason, that you haven't gone to what? To school, or they think you stopped somewhere, or they think you're a failure. And so I began to interact with the best of humanity, but also with the worst of humanity. But what it did for me, I tell you, my dear ones, it humbled me. I would knock on those doors. I would go to those offices. I was extremely humbled. And unbeknown to me, I needed that humility in building a startup. I needed that grit. The grit of selling is not easy. To be rejected, not once, not twice, not thrice, not 4 times, multiple times, but to wake up the next morning and say, I am going to knock on some more doors, because I believe I'm going to get a yes somewhere. So unbeknownst to me, Gladys, grit was being formed in me. Determination. How do you build a pipeline? How do you build a sales pipeline? All these things I was learning. And I was at that job almost 2 years. I remember I closed over 200 million in business. Well, what I can remember, I closed one particular business about over 150 million. They had done different institutions. For some reason, they just thought they couldn't get this institution. And I said, why not? If somebody has not said no, why what? Why not? I knocked on that door, and I can say the company was NSSF, and they gave us a contract for over 150 million. And so, unknown to me, and I say this now, and I'm able to say this to you better because I can speak with hindsight, okay? And they say hindsight is what? 2020. Isn't that what they say, right? So I'm able to speak with hindsight because now I can see what that did for me. And so while I was there, I was knocking on doors. I got 2 job opportunities. One of them was one of our clients, I think, and I would pester that client for money. You know how you do work for a client and they're not paying. I'm like, what are you talking about? You have to pay us our money. Now, unbeknown to me, all those were skills that I was getting for where I am now. And so I would that client I think was so impressed. They were like, how can this person pester us like this? I think they need to come and work for us. So that client offered me a job as a traffic manager. It was an ad agency. It's still in existence. It's an ad agency, one of the top, I think, 5 ad agencies in the country. They offered me a job as a traffic manager. My salary, literally, guys, I used to earn like 420K gross. So you can imagine my net. It was like 325,700 shillings or 50 shillings or what. And these guys would pay taxes. They would do NSS. Like, they were my former bosses. To this day, there are many things I picked up from those women. They would pay tax. So that 420K, by the time it came to you, 325, 200, 50 shillings, what? NSSF, local tax, what? They have removed it. So these guys offer me a job. Now, they offer me a job, and then CK gets to meet me through his current wife, who happened to be my friend, my really, really good friend. And so I met him the first time. I greeted him and he said, I need her. Like, can I get her? I remember my friend called me off the hook because I was at something like this and my phone was charging the way it is charging now. And I came and I found, I don't know, over 5 missed calls from her. And I'm like, what's this? She's like, my boyfriend, then they were dating, they were not getting married. My boyfriend says he wants you to work with him. I said, really? Then he's like, he wants a meeting. So I met him on Saturday. He asked for a meeting on Sunday. So Sunday after church, I go to the Innovation Village, okay? And he takes me around and he says, do you want to make money or do you want to change the world? You can guess what I said. Change the what? The world. And so the other job that was going to pay me four times what I was getting from that card salary, insurance and everything. And now I had 2 job offers. And so I went down the Innovation Village Road, and there begins my Wazi story. And while I was at the Innovation Village, I knew all these different startups similar to what, the ecosystem here. And then I'd heard about Brenda and what she was building. And I thought she was very intriguing, in fact, as a person. And it turned out that her and I were at the university at the same time. She was doing engineering, I was doing law. I came one time, I think, to visit a friend of mine, and she stayed in the same room. But beyond that, we had no contact, okay? And so I began to talk to Brenda, and we realized that we had the same thought process. And in October 2018, I joined Brenda officially as a co-founder in Wazi. I left my job at the Innovation Village. I was there for 1 year. I left my job in December, and Innovation Village was just getting some of the MasterCard money, just beginning to get some of it. Where I was going, Brenda was just going to resume fundraising for equipment. And pretty much I left what was security to go into the unknown, but I believed in it. I was convicted. I just come out of a 30-day fast, and the Lord confirmed and said, this is where you're going to go. And yeah, that's my background not a nutshell, in a very long, big shell.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Have
you built any businesses apart from Wazi Vision?
That's a good question. I sold shirts. I'm a saleswoman, by the way. I'm a saleswoman, pretty much. So I sold shirts. I sold, what else did I sell? Yeah, I've just pretty much sold. Yeah.
What has been your experience managing Wazi Vision?
That's a good question. I have so many things to say. What would you like me to talk about? I can talk about teams. I can talk about fundraising. I can talk about stakeholders. I can talk about the product. I can talk about service. I can talk about, media and what media can help do for your startup, especially when you're fundraising on a global scale. Tell me.
As someone who is in hardware, we talk about the product.
Okay, product. Yeah, that's a good one, because product is very important. And of late, I've been seeing a lot of these startups, in some of them based in Nairobi, that have raised so much money, but they are shutting down. Have you guys seen those startups? Yeah, there was, Sendify and all these others. The other day, there's one that I saw, they raised, I think, over $123 million. And now they have gone into administration. And so many other startups that are closing, not even just here in Nairobi, but even in Lagos, in Ghana. You've raised over $80 million, over $100 over $100 million, but you're closing. Yeah. So I think product, if your business, if your startup is hardware like yours and ours is, it's important that you do everything to create a great product. And Wazi, we didn't start off with a great product. In fact, I think we're still building a great product, but it's important that your product goes through different stages. So there's the idea stage of the product, then there's the product gaining market traction. Wazi went through all those stages. By the time I met Brenda, she had already gotten the product out, which was at idea stage. She had gotten a bit of funding and she had gotten people to wear the product, test the product, and give feedback. So we had gotten some market traction. In 2021, we got our biggest grant fund at the time, and it was from UK Aid under the Assistive Tech Impact Fund. Now, it gave us even more insight into what building a product means. So with that fund, we had both venture building support from Catalyst Fund. Some of you may know the Catalyst Fund, really amazing global venture building fund. But we also had a cash injection, okay? But if we had a cash injection without the venture building support, and I'm coming to the product, I don't think Wazi would be where it is. I think we would have made mistakes, not even spend that money on us or anything, to do with us. And I'm one of those founders who truly believe that you must have financial integrity, have your accounts transparent, because your currency is your integrity in this ecosystem. Three of the funders that have given us money all get money from each other. Imagine they sit on a table and you messed up one of them, you're finished, because they're the three, it's a very small ecosystem. Yeah. So we got cash and we got venture building support. If we had got cash without the venture building support, I don't think we'd be where we are in terms of product, in terms of brand, in terms of even ability to sustain the business. Yeah. Now, some of the venture building support came with professors from UCL, University College London, and they enabled us to pick the right equipment that we needed for our manufacturing. Now, me and Brenda were just passionate and oh my God, I think the equipment is this. These guys took us through a process. We had to do a 6-week sprint. Yeah, and part of that 6-week sprint was understanding what equipment do you need. Do you need an injection molding machine? Do you need a 3D modeling machine? Or do you need a CNC machine? Okay, and we had to do the pros and the cons of each of these machines. And it was very simple. After doing the pros and cons, you score. The machine that had the highest for pros was the machine that we ended up buying and purchasing as Wazi. That's product. So you must understand, and objectively, I'm sure you need machines to create your product. So you must objectively sit down, not sentimental, not emotionally, but objectively sit down and say, what is it that my product, what kind of equipment do I need? Who are the people that I need to help me build my product? I studied law. Brenda did engineering, but she did telecom engineering. Okay. And for us to produce the product with the kind of excellence and precision, we needed a mechanical engineer. And so going through that venture building support and getting the cash injection enabled us to understand two things. You could be the founders, you could be the visionaries, you could be passionate about this thing, but you need skilled labor. You need skilled labor. You need to know the equipment that is going to take you to where you need to go. Don't just buy equipment because you have money. That's why I said if we had had the money without the venture building support, we would have made mistakes. We probably have a lot of money in a machine seated there, and we're not even using quota of the capacity. And so we're able to objectively choose the equipment that we needed. We're also objectively able to be told, you need to hire a mechanical engineer. And on top of that, you need to train the mechanical engineer. And so what that came with is they even helped us find the manufacturers of our equipment all the way in France. And we were able to take the mechanical engineer whom we had hired. The JD experience, I think she has about maybe now coming to 10 years experience with CNC machining. We ended up buying the CNC machine because of that, meticulous, objective, journey to choosing the equipment. Not how much money you have, not emotionally, not sentimentally, but understanding this is what you need. And you may not be the person who knows where to get it from. So you need to get the people that know, okay?
Wow.
There's so much I can talk about product to R&D and all these things, but I thought that may be very beneficial, especially for people who are starting out. Yeah.
Thank you about that.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration building Wazi vision? And how much progress have you made?
That's a good one. My inspiration was, like I mentioned before, to change lives. And changing lives meant getting eyewear into people who ordinarily would not either afford eyewear or have access to the eyewear. And to do that sustainably, we had to build a business where people can pay for a product. And when people pay for the product, those that cannot afford to pay for the product or access the product are then given the opportunity through the people who can pay the product. And like I said, I wanted to see change. I wanted to see transformation. I wanted to make an impact in my generation. I wanted to make an impact in my nation, okay? I wanted to see transformation. And that's what kept driving me. In between 2019 and 2021, we were fundraising. COVID happened. We did a couple of trips out of the country into Europe, and we just kept hitting dead ends. And what kept me going, I packed my car. Brenda also packed her car. Like, we literally put in everything that we had to keep going. And what kept me going was transformation. But also, as I was praying, and like I mentioned before, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't tell you my story without putting God in it, okay? Because then you'll not get the full story, right? I remember when we were fundraising and hitting dead ends and knocking on doors. Like I said, as a salesperson selling cards, it was preparing me for what I'm doing now with Wazi. And so the Lord told me that you're going to raise X amount of money. And I remember texting that to Brenda one time. But the truth of it finally came to light in February 2021 when we got that fund. No, that's when the money came. We got the fund in November 2020. The investment committee approved us in November 2020, and the money came into our accounts February 2021. People were firing, we were hiring. Yeah, so what kept me going is transformation and the fact that God told me, this is where exactly I need you to be. Yeah.
That's nice. If you had to start all over again, what would you do differently?
Revenue. Whatever you do. And don't get me wrong here. I know we need external funds, both grants. If you can't get them, they are better. But the mindset must be right, because you can get grants and think that your business is a grant-making what? Machine, and never build a business or a product or a service. But I know we need external capital, venture capital, angel funding, and all those things. But you know what? If I could do it all over again, I would build pipelines and pathways to revenue, spend more time building revenue, getting customers to buy the product, to buy the service, and then I would fundraise. I wouldn't fundraise and then try and get customers. I would get customers, because at the end of the day, you can raise $100 million, but if people are not paying for your product or your service, you're going to shut down.
So looking at the different startup founders that are here, what gaps have you noticed in the Ugandan ecosystem? The startup ecosystem, what gaps have you noticed?
Wow, Gladys is an intelligent lady. That's a very good question. And the gaps I've noticed is just formalization. People don't have documentation. Yeah, it's so simple, but when you start fundraising, you'll understand why you need all your documents to be in place. So having your documents, having your Excel sheets, having receipts, when you sell your products, having that history. I've seen that not too many people have that. I remember people would ask us, why did you guys hire a finance lead, and someone so experienced? But we said we want to have our things in order. So one of the gaps I've seen is people don't want to spend the money to get the right skills. You get what I mean? Especially when you've raised. Before you've raised, I understand it's not possible because you don't have the money. Brenda and I were everything before we raised that huge fund that enabled us to get the right skill set. And not just any skill set, but the right skill set, highly skilled labor into the company. But before you fundraise, do everything possible. If you have friends who are accountants, friends who are lawyers, these are people who you can say, you know what? Do for me a solid, yeah? Look through our books once a month. If you have friends who are lawyers, please advise on these documents. We want to have our things. It's better to start small and start the right way than come all this way and then have to go back to make things right, yeah? You won't be as lucky. And now investors, okay, are very, very stringent. They are very, if anything, they're like even fearful now to invest in East Africa. The other day I was talking to our finance lead and he was telling me, he was in some investment conversations and he was telling me apparently for East Africa, they don't even want to do equity anymore. Debt is what they want to do. And so by the time you get debt, your documentation had better be in order. So documentation. Yeah.
I hope we have learned from that. Where do you see Wazi vision in 5 or 10 years?
That's a good question. I see Wazi vision opening up new markets. Between you and me this year, I want us to open up 3 new markets. That is London, Paris, and Italy. But that's like this year. So in the next 5 years, I want us to be in about maybe 4 continents. Yeah, and here in East Africa, it may be about 4 or 5 countries. I probably still won't be the MD because you have to realize that you may not be the one to take the company there, but we are building it. Brenda did her part such a way that I could go on and manage, and then I will also get somebody else. And I love Natif's story, okay? Because you have to build your company knowing that it may not be you to take it to the globe, yeah? And so that's the thing. Like where I see was the next 10 years, I probably won't be running it, and I'm good with that. And to be in 4 continents, and this year we want to break into 3 new markets. Yeah.
We're really excited as Founders Lounge, the road trip. This time could be the airline to visit you there.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone building a startup?
What advice would I give to somebody building a startup? It's very challenging, but it's also very rewarding to see people have livelihoods, to see families having been fed and children going to school because you dared to dream, because you dared to say, I will start something. I will put up this product. I will do this service. And to see the change that you're making. And sometimes it's not the change that social media captures. The other day, if you'll allow me to say this, the other day we had an operations lead and his life was in all sorts of places. And a year, even before he made a year, because he made a year this month, before he made a year, he got himself a bike. Like, those, not the border borders, but the other ones. And let me tell you something, guys. I know raising $50 million is amazing, but also just celebrating those milestones where somebody came and their life was in all sorts of places and they gathered themselves and they put a goal and they said, I want to have this by this time. And to see that the thing that you're a part of, the thing that you're driving has provided that for them, it's priceless, So it's challenging. It has its ups and it has its downs. but it's worth it because lives are being changed. The nation is being transformed. Stories are being told. And one day when history writes about you, you'll be on the right side of history. You'll be on the right side of history. So keep on keeping on. And this is the last one. And I tell people this often. I'm like, I wish everybody would get a chance to be an entrepreneur because there are things that you learn. There's strength that you get. There's focus that you have. There's confidence that you have. There's grit. I'm telling you, nothing in this world can beat you down when you've done entrepreneurship. Nothing. I'm telling you, like, please bring it on. Show me. Show me. Show me. You literally can just about be anybody and do anything when you've built a business, especially when you've built a business that has succeeded, that has gone beyond you. I really enjoy Natif's story, and Natif is one of Wazi's friends. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I noticed that God is in every detail of your story.
Absolutely.
And that is really nice. I also put a lot of spirituality in whatever I'm building. I'm like, okay, I'm also like a co-creator with God.
That's good.
What do you do for fun outside Wazi Vision?
Guys, that's a good question. Listen, I preach the gospel. Oh yeah. I don't know whether it's fun. It's my life, you know. My life is literally like, if I'm not here, if I will not be here, I'll be somewhere either preaching the gospel, studying the Bible. Because listen, I tell myself I must live my generation better than I found it. And I'll do everything in my power to live my generation better than I found it. And somebody asked me, when was the last time you went to the beach? I'm like, what's the beach? Where's the road to the beach? Yeah, but I read. But then I'm reading the Bible. I'm reading books about the Bible. I don't know. Like God is fun. Yeah, that's the most honest way I can answer that question. Oh, but you know, Gladys, I've remembered something. Hey, do you want to hear what I've remembered? Yes. Where I go? And I think, let me go. You want to hear? Okay. So you know how Gladys and remind me? Chris and Donald were talking about doing the 8 days and seeing these founders and hearing these stories and the rooftop of that building in Nairobi. This is one of the things. When the things about being the startup ecosystem is, as you build, you get invitations to different parts of the world. You know, like he just took people to Marrakech, Morocco. What an amazing place, you know? And then, you know, so I think along the building, I've gone to different parts of the world and it's just nice to check out, you know, go to France and check out the Eiffel Tower. I think that's some of the fun things I've done, yeah. So this August, I've been invited to the British ambassador to France's residence in Paris to showcase one or two things and talk to one or two individuals. So I promise when I'm there, I'm going to do something fun in Paris. That's the beauty of, you know, building, you know, but they build it, but also when these invitations come, one of them have a brush. At least you'll have some pictures and say, okay, it was a tough time. Now at least we hammered Marrakech. Yeah, you know, we must laugh a little, people. We must laugh a little. This thing is serious, but we should have fun while doing it, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow, it reminds me of one of the labs that we visited.
Yeah.
It had a logo of a camel.
Mm-hmm.
That was Damian Labs. Mm-hmm. And then we asked, what is the meaning of this camel? And he's like, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have to be given limited resources. And so you build something out of it, like a camel in the desert.
That's good.
Surviving on less of land and water.
That's so good.
So when you get a chance, take a selfie, be happy.
Take a selfie, laugh, meet new people. You know, if you're able, sometimes you join accelerator programs where you're like in Berlin for like 2 months, you know, learn a new language, do something, you know. And listen, let's record it for the gram. We cannot always be in sadness, building. Yeah, let's have a blast. Yeah.
what would you say is the most impactful decisions that you've made in your life?
Wow. Number one, accepting Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. Number two, marrying my husband. He is incredible. I would not have done some of the things I've been able to do if I didn't have his support. We've been married 8 years this June. And then number three is choosing to serve God wherever God says go. So, and then part of that is being in Wazi. I think it's one of the greatest decisions I ever made. Saying yes to building a startup. I will never, ever be the same. Yeah.
How do you manage competition?
That's a good question. Now, how I manage competition, and competition is good for every startup. I'm telling you, if you don't have competition, you can become lazy and you can become comfortable. You get what I mean? Eh? And you will never try to want more for your business or your product or your service. But how I manage it, and I keep telling the team, competition is good. I even tell some of our partners that I'm glad where more optical stores are opening up, because that means that there is market for what we're doing. I think competition sometimes affirms that you're not cuckoos, that the thing that you're doing is not, you're not crazy, yeah? Exactly. So that's how I handle it. Honestly, I think competition is good. But now, after competition being good, how can I beat the competition? But also, are they all my competition? Just because we're in the same eyewear space, yeah? So that's why I say that this year, because our competition, for instance, like La Paire, they're in 7 African countries, but theirs is a different product from ours. We design and manufacture locally. We use some of our products are out of locally sourced materials like cow horn, okay? Which I should have come with today, by the way. I'm sorry, I forgot. But so what we're going to take to the markets, because the competition made me think, you get, which I was like, but wait, why am I here? Just in Kampala, okay, there's La Paire, but there's a whole world out there, and we have something to give as Wazi. Our authenticity, our Africanicity, our Ugandanness, we can put it to the world. And so I began to have conversations. We have machines, we have 2 mechanical engineers, our assets, just the machines and the mechanical engineers. That's why would I even need to raise another $1 million when we have that kind of asset? So I began to think, okay, how do we unlock the assets, both the machines and the mechanical engineers, for return on investment, enter new markets? You get what I mean? Because in Uganda, no one is going to pay you $1,000 or $500 for your cow horn. But in Italy, in London, and in Paris, they may be willing to pay. In fact, I know that they even pay much higher for cow horn frames. So competition is good because it makes you think. You don't sleep because you're like, how do we keep getting better? And what sets us apart from our competition? So what sets Wazi apart from Optica? Optica has been in retail for over 30 years, but it will never do cow horn locally from Uganda. Even La Paire, you get what I mean? They are great, but they'll never be a Wazi. So how does a Wazi continue to build its brand both locally and globally, but thinking away from the competition while acknowledging the competition? Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, so how do you hire?
That's a good question. So one, we hire, especially maybe 3 years ago, we hired skill set and culture fit. Yeah, like I said, because of our product, it's very specialized. Nobody in this country had ever designed and manufactured eyewear. So we not only had to hire engineers, but we also had to train the engineers, okay? So we hire skill, but we also hire culture fit. There are people who have the skill, but they don't have integrity. They have a bad attitude. They don't have a teachable spirit. You must be teachable, because the thing that we do, you and I know, when you're building a startup, things change all the time. The thing that we do is volatile. You know, today you'll get an email saying one thing. You told the team, this is the what? The thing. And so somebody who's teachable, who has a great attitude, who's humble, and the right skill set.
I think I've come to the end. I'll pass the questions to the audience. As for me, what I noticed, you really have a board co-founder. And it's something I think I did not ask. Like, you talk with Brenda, you come in, you work as a team, you won. It's something that I've learned. Most times, I personally have the issue of you do most of the work, then when there's something big, then your co-founder comes through. It's like, I don't know if you can maybe enlighten on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Brenda is incredible, and she taught me many things. Okay, so 2018 October I joined her. 2019 we were in the hustle together. 2021 she went to do her master's, but she was still at that time managing director, and I was doing operations. But we were still like we were in agreement. Not that we're in agreement over everything, because you must allow disagreement. Yeah, sometimes you disagree, but if disagreement is good, because that means that two people are seeing things differently, and the way you see them differently adds value to the company. Okay, so don't shy away from disagreement. I think it is how you resolve the disagreements. Yeah, and so she helped. She was in Canada, but she was still managing director. I was doing operations, and she was leading on reporting to the funders. We would be on the calls together, everything, but she was leading on that. I was leading on operations in Uganda to ensure that the money that was dispersed was doing what it was supposed to do. And we were fundraising together. I know she always made sure, she introduced me as a co-founder. She always made sure that I was on all those calls. I understood. She would sometimes prep me, sometimes would be invited. She'd like, you be the one to go and represent us in France or wherever. But then she would prep me, she would do my pitch deck, and then show me how to do a pitch deck. And then she taught me so much, because I'd been in the ecosystem before me, but she taught me so much. So I think it is the understanding that what we're doing here is important and it's serious. We're not playing what? Games. Please don't play with someone's life. No. You get what I mean? Yeah. So I think she understood that, I understood that, and so we gave it the gravity of seriousness that it requires. Whatever you do, be serious. Banange. You know, I was telling the team the other day that I'm never going to be a managing director of Wazi again. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is not a toy store. I'm not playing with you people. And then after that, after 2 years, now I'll come and put on a shirt. And then I'll say I'm managing what? Director. No, this is it. Do you understand? And I think Brenda and I have understood that this is it. Our actions have consequences. And how we treat each other, and how we treat the team, and how we treat funders, how we treat stakeholders, how we treat partners, everything has a consequence. And so we must treat it with utmost seriousness.
Okay, so let us give a round of applause to
Thank you, Gladys.
Back to the audience. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
There was a hand there and a hand over there.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Geogette Ndabukyiye. I'm a founder of Cabinet Set Digital, it's a digital marketing agency.
I love it.
I wanted to ask, I think it speaks to, at the core of everything. When do you know when it's right to let someone go in your startup?
That's a good question. And my goodness. We've had some of those. Yeah, I think that's why documentation is important. Yeah. Of course, when you're giving out a contract, you'll have a 3 months probation. And then you're going to have, ideally, once a month check-in meetings. And your contract has the deliverables. Yeah, and if the person, maybe after 3 months, have not delivered, but you sense that maybe they're teachable, you know, or they may not be very strong in the skill yet, but you see they have a good attitude. And so you sit them down, and there's what's a thing called performance what?
KPI.
Performance improvement plan, PIP, performance, yeah. So if you sense that, okay, they've done the probation, you've sat down to talk to them, you still don't see an improvement, put them on a performance improvement plan. That's what the other corporate entities do. And like I said, it's better to run your startup from the beginning as though someone else one day will take it over. So that it's not based on your emotions, it's not based on how you feel, you're making objective decisions. And of course, for many of the startups, you can't yet probably have a whole human resource department. Wazi, we don't have a human resource department. I remember the time we're making very key hires, we had to outsource some of the interviewers. Yeah, if sometimes it helps to get a friend to come and sit next to you, a friend who you know is knowledgeable and skilled in a particular area you're hiring for, that's also good. Okay, or if you can talk to a friend, or if you can even pay that friend, because sometimes some of our friends who are skilled and are experienced in these areas, they know where you are, and they may not so much want all the money that they're supposed to get, but just an appreciation of their time and their experience. So you can say, I know you're good at this. I have 200K for your car fuel and your coffee. First come and help me here. You get what I mean? But what I'm trying to say is that be as objective as possible and have other eyes and ears also. Yeah?
Wow. Geogette,
yes, please.
Your story is very interesting.
Thank you.
Inspiring and insightful.
Tang you.
And I'm glad you're here to tell it to us.
Thank you so much.
So what I'm interested in is, since from what you said earlier on, there was a lot of struggle at the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Building the company.
Yes,
sir. So I'd like to know what challenges you had at the beginning, getting the brand known out there.
That's a good question. Yeah. Please, what's your name, sir?
George Omara.
George, yes, I met you outside. Yes, we're from the same family. George, Georgette, Georgina, Georgiana. We are all in the same family. Yeah, so I think initially it's one, people don't usually trust Ugandan brands because they're like, what are you going to do? What are you going to tell us? Are you sure this thing is even, but are you sure you guys even design and manufacture from here? We always get that a lot until somebody comes, goes to the production room, meets the engineers, sees the product being even sometimes cut, and they're like, hey, but this we have been trying to tell you. But aside from that, it's just that people, unfortunately, we are yet to change that mindset. People think anything indigenous is not good. Yeah, people think that people who get out of their way to produce from here are either bayaye or they don't know what they are doing. So those are some of the obstacles we've had to overcome. But I will tell you that fortunately, we've had partners from we've had USADF, we've had ETI Impact Fund, we've had also global media like Forbes, we've had global media, CNN, we've had all these Bloomberg, big global media brands doing 1 or 2 stories on us. And I'll tell you that helped. At least it helped us with fundraising, because what happens is these Bazungu, white people, in a good way, they do a lot of research. Yeah, so they'll just put in your brand, and if they see you that you've appeared in Bloomberg or Forbes or CNN, then they're like, these people must be serious. So that helped us a lot. Yeah, but locally, like I said, at the end of the day, you can be in all those articles, but if you don't have paying customers, you don't have a business. Because some of these businesses that have fallen have appeared in all those big global brand media, but at the end of the day, the business are still closed. So I think for me, it's just keep pushing on those doors to get as many paying customers as you can, because the more people pay, the more feedback you get. People will be more keen to give you feedback for something they're paying for. Someone will be like, man, George, I gave you my 150K. First, give me back my 50K. You know what I mean? Because here, there's a gap. And then because you're an entrepreneur and your motive for doing what you're doing is the right thing, you'll go back on the drawing board and you'll dare to improve on that gap, okay? And then you'll go back and sell it again, and then you'll get more feedback. You get what I mean? And there you grow much what? Faster, yeah. And now the good thing with being in an ecosystem like this, and doing the things that you guys are going to do, going to Cape Town, and you're going to get those people. They're always in those conferences, the Forbes and all those guys. They're looking for stories. Yeah. Oh, by the way, they're looking for stories. CNN looked for us for almost 3 years. We kept telling them, no, we're not ready. We're not ready. Until our machines were set, we're doing our container. Then we said, now what? So, because what, by the time we appear on CNN, we get the right people calling us. You get, as opposed to appearing in CNN, the things are like this, and then you've wasted the opportunity. So they will look for you, by the way. They need the stories, but make sure you have paying customers, and eventually the brand will grow. And when all these things come, you'll get the visibility, you'll get all these other things. Paying customers. Yeah. Hey.
I don't know if you have a hard time sometimes with your name.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because I was having a hard time reading the name. The first name is Geogette.
Georgette. Yeah, same family as George.
How nice. So my question is at the core of Wazi, which is the glasses.
Yeah.
What exactly causes people to have problems with the eyes? Because I spend a lot of time on my laptop, so I want to know exactly what's at the core of that.
Brilliant. So the more you're exposed to light, and that you, because of what you do, you're exposed to blue light, and blue light strains your eyes. The computer light, the screen light, your mobile screen, it strains your eyes, and sometimes you'll get tired, you'll get fatigued, sometimes you'll even get headaches when you spend a lot of time being exposed to the blue light. Even the screen, your TV screen also is not right. And so because of the amount of time you spend exposed to blue light, that causes eye strain, that causes headache, that causes fatigue, you will end up needing to wear glasses to block blue light. So they are called blue light blockers, okay? I wish I came with, I should have come with that. But there's a thing we do for people when we are illustrating. It's a thing it's a pen, when I point it at you, the rays, in a few minutes you're going to begin doing this, you'll begin doing this, like you'll feel the strain immediately when I point the thing at you. So that's the blue light rays. Then when I put the frame, the lenses that block, and I point it, the frame blocks that blue light rays. Yeah.
The glasses help, like
yes. Yes. Oh, sunglasses?
Yes.
No. No.
You use them a lot.
I see clearly, evidently. No, but first of all, your sunglasses, for them to be of real help to you, they have to have UV. Yeah. If they don't have UV, now many of the sunglasses people buy from Batembe and all these other people, sometimes not good. Yes. So you end up quickening your eye strain much faster than you should have.
So I should come to us and get glasses.
Listen, you must come tomorrow. We are open on Saturday. You must come now. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, I really don't know if I'm lost, but there's something I wanted to understand.
Yes, please.
There's this thing that says, when you start to know something, there must be a story behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if like 80% of people who are in microfinances may be because their parents failed one day, borrow loan for their school fees, etc. If you're in studios, you may be like, good houses.
Yeah.
I want to know the
Wazi
story. Why are you there? Who is the did Brenda start this from money? Passion was one of her person having an eye issue, so she's solving something in her circle. I think maybe if you said it, I didn't get it right.
Oh no, I didn't say it. I'm sorry. Sometimes I assume people have heard that story before, but let me say it. So Brenda started, and because I joined her, right? And I think I shared mine is transformation. That was my driver. So Brenda used to work in Deloitte, and while she was in Deloitte, similar to what he said, she was exposed to her computer more often than not as an auditor. And so one day she goes to have her eyes tested, okay? And she gets her eyes tested, and then she picks out her frames, and then she's told the frames are like 500K. She's like, what? These frames are 500K? Imagine if I think these are expensive and I work in Deloitte, I have insurance, how about Omuntu wa wansi? You know, how are they able to afford these frames or eyewear? How about the person who doesn't even have access to eye care, eye testing? How are they able to be productive, you know? And then that led to research and understanding how eyewear could be made more accessible and more affordable in our country. And that's why when Wazi was starting out, we were recycling plastic waste to make eyewear. Our frames cost as low as 70,000 shillings. Yeah, they were light. That was the story. Yeah, and for a while, that story got us somewhere. Okay, but when you're talking to some VCs, that's what they're going to ask. You get what I mean? However, a story is good because it opens some doors. You get what I mean? But it will open small ticket size doors. Yeah. The longer you take, like Wazi made 7 years in February. Last time I was at an investor call, I literally spoke for 3 minutes. And after that, all the questions were directed to our finance lead. What was this? What is the growth curve? How many frames are you selling per day? How many frames do you sell per week? How many frames do you sell per month? How many frames what's your total number of frames to be sold this year? What's your gross profit for this year? You get what I mean? Like now the questions have begun to take a different turn. Yeah. So revenue from the beginning. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Geogette, for the inspirational story. I'm called Mercy Ashama.
Hey, Mercy.
Yes. So my question is about fundraising.
Yes, please.
I would really love you to throw more light on it and give us some advice for the startup founders that are here.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Number one, I think I said it earlier, documentation, but also knowing who to knock on whose door. Yeah, because like there are some VCs, there are some investors that I would never even send an email to our WhatsApp because they would never invest in Wazi. You know, some people spend 3 years knocking on the wrong investors' doors, and yet you must know which investor would most likely invest in your startup. So for instance, Wazi has an impact side to it. And so we found that the investors who are drawn to us are also impact-driven investors, as opposed to your capitalistic, VCs, okay? So one, you must build a database. Yeah, I remember when we were doing the venture building, as I mentioned earlier, we were taught how to build a database. You get what I mean? Yeah, so to build your database of funders who can most likely invest in your venture. Yeah, and you can build as big as 150. Yeah, and then once you finish building that database, now you look for in those investment funds who here in Uganda has raised from them. Okay, for instance, we've raised money from Renew Capital. There's a time somebody called me and they wanted to get money from Renew Capital, so they told me, oh, what do these guys look out for? Can you help me with the due diligence list? You get what I mean? Is there somebody you know? So if you can get a warm intro from a founder in Uganda that has probably raised from some of those funds that can give you money, then it's better. It's better that I come and say, I know Mercy. She's good. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then they'll pay more attention. So warm intros are very good. Yeah. So as you build that database of the right funders for your venture, then you get warm intros from Ugandan founders. If you know people who can get you warm intros from founders in South Africa, in San Francisco, who have raised money from them. I mean, these days Zoom came. You know what? I don't have to fly all the way to the States or to Uganda to meet you. Yeah, but the more warm intros you can get to get you to open those doors, the better. Does that make sense? Yeah, but like I said, you must have a product and a service. And now investors are like I said, a bit wary of doing equity with East African startups. Most of them want to do debt. But the question is your startup able to handle debt? Because for you to handle debt, you must have your records showing that you actually sell a product, and that if they give you $200,000, there's a slim chance that this $200,000 will come back. You know what I mean? Yeah, so if I were you, I would build that pipeline, but also build the revenue more. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Georgette. Yeah, George and then Ed. Georgette. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Asa. I work for a startup called Impact. And
nice.
The thing is that I support a number of tech communities.
That's good.
My question is on whom do you attribute to your faith? Because what I'm asking is that is from your story, faith is very, your faith in God is very instrumental to your success.
That's true.
And it's amazing how you hold that with strong convictions.
Yeah.
And my experience of being in the tech industry,
yes,
I find that many of us, we never share our faith.
Yeah.
Or even want people to know our faith in God. Especially, I've seen it in this tech industry, the pressure you never want to talk to share that you're Christian. And in my experience, I know a number of my friends who are Christians, really faith Christians, who are working for big companies, Microsoft, and you can literally, I know them that the reason why they are there, God has been instrumental.
Yeah.
But you will share that. Even recently, I have a friend of mine who wrote software, Christian, believing God. It was part of the team that wrote software for when NASA launched the rocket to Mars.
Oh, nice.
So it was a small chopper that they wanted to test if it can fly with Mars. And it's part of the team that wrote the software for that. And
no kidding.
But,
what?
But the closer someone will say, because I'm a religious person, so I can see that faith is instrumental in your life and to your success. So who do you attribute to for anchoring you that in your faith?
Yeah. I think I attribute it to my current church. I go to a church called Vive Nation. And at that church, our mantra is love God, love people, and catalyze purpose. And so we believe that catalyzing purpose is beyond the Sunday experience. It's all throughout the week, you know. But also growing up, I grew up in an Anglican church called All Saints Cathedral up here in Nakasero. And I saw so many people who were successful in the marketplace, but they would also come and preach on Sunday, all right? They were, well, in the Anglican church, they're called layman preachers, okay? And I think seeing this, and I remember reading the Bible, and Paul was a tent maker, you know, and I desired to be a tent maker as well. I said, how could Christ have paid it all for me? He paid a debt I will never be able to pay. And I never want to take from him. I want to give to him. So if I can spend the rest of my life in whatever form and way, giving to the one who gave it all, I'll do it. And if I'm able to work, I have to be the best at what I do so that I can give back to him. And, you know, the Bible also says, well, I may be paraphrasing this. Let me not use that because I don't want to paraphrase. I really want to get the exact scripture. But let me say this. Why would you be ashamed of the one who created the heavens and the earth? Then I think you probably don't know him enough. And the people who don't say him out loud, who don't wear it, in my opinion, I think they don't know him well enough. I think they think by saying and talking about their faith, they may either be sidelined or, you know what I mean, they may be persecuted. But what a joy, what a privilege if I'm persecuted for my faith, you know? So It does not being an entrepreneur, being the co-founder of Wazi, being managing director does not define me. Do you understand what I mean? It doesn't define me. I can go to sleep tomorrow happily if I'm not the co-founder or managing director, because I'm on assignment. And when this assignment is done in this season, I will have to give account to God that when I was at Wazi, what did I do? And if God changes my assignment, I will gladly go to the next assignment. Do you understand what I mean? Yes, I think those people, their identity is being entrepreneurs or coders. You get what I mean? Their identity is not founded in Christ. It's founded in those other things.